Give them the corporate death penalty. Dissolve their assets. Break them up. Sell them off. Seize everything they've got. Of course, that's not what the president said last night. You got to preserve the Democratic Party's funding sources. We have an absolutely pathetic political system in the United States right now. We have gone from a democracy to a plutocracy, from a democracy to a kleptocracy, from a democracy to a form of government basically where whoever has the most money wins, and the big transnational corporations are calling the tune. It is not good. It is not healthy. And we have a president who is afraid, in my opinion, either afraid or just as a consequence of his life experiences, incapable of getting out there and taking names and kicking ass. Now, let me qualify that. The one time he even referred to kicking ass in the almost 2 years that he's been president, which was last week, within 12 hours, you had Rush Limbaugh and the whole right-wing echo chamber. You had the fill-in guy for Limbaugh going, oh, he's an angry black man. Look out, he's angry. See? You had Drudge, the headline. He's going straight. And, of course, Drudge is the assignment editor for virtually every newspaper and magazine and all the right-wing talk shows in America, which are, on over 1,000 radio stations and dozens of right-wing talk shows. So this is a major chunk of America's media. So maybe this, gradual, slow, cautious approach is one that has served him very well in his political career up to this point. It certainly has. And I personally think it's time for him to stop being concerned about his perception by those who don't like him, those who frankly, the racists on the right. Because he's the friggin' president of the United States. He doesn't need them anymore. It's time to take names and kick ass, Mr. President. It's not time to say, well, let's all pray. Lamar Alexander, the Republican senator from Tennessee, had this to say about Barack Obama's speech.
He took part of my advice. Actually, he did. He referred to the climate bill. It was hard. He didn't refer to much, to tell you the truth, Chuck. What I had hoped he would do is to say he wanted a mini Manhattan Project for clean energy and focus on the things we agree on: electric cars, nuclear plants, and energy research and development. He could have done that.
How is what he said inconsistent with that?
Well, he didn't say that. I mean, presidents only have this opportunity every several years. I mean, President Reagan did it on the Challenger, President Bush at 9/11. This was a chance for the president to say, this is the way we're going to go. He didn't mention electric cars and trucks. He didn't mention nuclear plants. And he didn't mention energy research and development, all of which he's for, all of which we're for. On the Republican side, we could get that done pretty fast.
Yeah, in fact, he didn't mention much of anything specific, and this was his great opportunity to do so. And therefore, I was very, very, very disappointed. He said, for example, we're going to make BP pay for the damage. Cut number 1 here, Jacob.
We will make BP pay for the damage their company has caused.
Great. And it was announced this morning, just minutes ago, that BP has agreed to set up a $20 billion escrow account that, instead of being administered by the company that is currently this part of the giant ACE Swiss-based insurance group, it's called ESIS, that BP is currently using, a company that advertises on their website the fact that their big job is cutting the losses, reducing the payouts of people who have to pay claims. In other words, their job is to say to people who are saying, my shrimp business is worth $50,000, and they'll say, oh, we'll give you 30. That's their job. That company apparently is not going to be involved. According to the news reports I'm reading, instead it's going to be Kenneth Feinberg, the guy who passed out money after 9/11. Although there were a lot of dissatisfied families with that. But we'll see. We'll see. $20 billion, it's a start. But we have an ice pick in the heart of Mother Nature. And blood is gushing. And this looks like it could easily be $1 trillion expense. $20 billion? $20 billion is just a start. He went on to say that, now I thought this was bizarre. BP, which is more of a bank than an oil company, Unlike most of the other oil companies, they actually leased the Deepwater Horizon. It wasn't theirs, even though Obama called it the BP Deepwater Horizon. It was the Transocean Deepwater Horizon. Much of the work was done by Halliburton. Virtually none of the work was done by BP. It was simply managed by them. Nonetheless, they have hired thousands, tens of thousands of personnel in the area, but President Obama kind of took credit for it. Here's what he said in Cut 2.
From the very beginning of this crisis, the federal government has been in charge of the largest environmental cleanup effort in our nation's history. We now have nearly 30,000 personnel who are working across 4 states to contain and clean up the oil. Thousands of ships, 17,000 National Guard members along the coast.
Well, I was pleased to hear that he's mobilizing the National Guard, or that he's at least asking the governors to mobilize the National Guard. But and he called out the failed philosophy. Here's Cut 4.
And one place we've already begun to take action is at the agency in charge of regulating drilling and issuing permits, known as the Minerals Management Service. Over the last decade, this agency has become emblematic of a failed philosophy that views all regulation with hostility. A philosophy that says corporations should be allowed to play by their own rules and police themselves.
That was brilliant. That was brilliant. And it should have been followed by a rant to that effect. Ronald Reagan spent the first 4 years, arguably all 8 years, but strongly the first 4 years of his presidency, trashing Jimmy Carter. Every single time he referred to the economy, he referred to it as the Carter economy or the Carter recession. George W. Bush spent a lot, at least Dick Cheney spent a lot of time talking about the failures of the Clinton administration led to 9/11. Why was there no mention of previous administrations? Why didn't he go after Newt Gingrich and Ronald Reagan and George W. Bush? Come on, Mr. President, be a fighter.